Hi there. I'm going to answer some questions today given to me by Mrs. Wilkerson's 4th grade class. And they are reading My Side of the Mountain, which I also read in school and really enjoyed. It's a cool book, and it probably inspired me to read other books in the same genre and, go on and read about Native American chiefs and pioneers and just trappers and mountain men and scouts and all that kind of stuff is something I've always enjoyed. And eventually reading about Alaska and books like Coming into the Country by John McPhee and Hatchet are all books that I always really liked as a kid, and I'm sure had their influence on the way I saw the world and getting excited about getting out into the wilderness. So I'm originally from northern Idaho is where I was born, but I grew up all over the place, from upstate New York to Montana to western Oregon. So I kind of moved around a bit as a kid. So I think homesteading first came to me as an idea when I was 19, and I was traveling in rural Idaho going to a job, and I saw a real estate agency sign that advertised 20 acres of land, $10,000, and I thought, geez, I could make that in a summer. That's when it kind of clicked for me that like having my own land was something that was attainable, and I was more than happy to live in a tent if it was mine. And granted, it took more than a decade before Margaret and I got together and we started looking for land together for that to really happen. But it was always in the back of my mind. That's what I wanted to do. And in the meantime, I came up to Alaska to visit and was immediately taken with Alaska. I was here for like 2 days, and I called my employers at the time and gave them 3 months notice and said, I'm going to come down, finish out 3 months of work, and then I'm back up here for good. As soon as I got to Alaska, like, it's so big, why not? Why not try to get the most out of life and be where the biggest open land is, because that's what I really like. So Margaret and I found this land because we decided we wanted to homestead together, and that was something we were both really interested in. So there's a remote properties real estate agency in Alaska. That's all they do is sell remote property all over the state. They have remoteproperties.com. So we got on there while we were house sitting for a friend who had internet, and started looking at property, and this one was just for sale. And we didn't see any pictures of it. There was only really bad, poor resolution. Satellite imagery is all we saw. So we really were just going off the description of the old man who sold us the property, and he was on the whole pretty accurate. We had this one funny thing where I asked him if there were any cottonwood trees on the property, and he said there's 3 or 4, but the connection was bad, so I heard there's 3 and 4 foot cottonwood trees. So we're picturing these big cottonwood trees are going to be along the creek or something, but that's not the case. There are 3 or 4 cottonwood trees on the property total, and they're a foot or 2 in diameter. But other than that, it was a really neat experience to show up here and know that we own this land, but we'd never really seen it before. And we had no idea how incredible the view is either. That was kind of a total shocker to us. So how long did I plan my hike across the Alaska Range, and was I ever scared? Did I ever want to give up? Well, I tell you, months of planning went into it. It's not the kind of thing you want to just get a wild hair and go do, because that's when the more you can plan ahead, the better. So months of planning with food caches, with studying maps, with talking to people who'd walked the route or knew parts of the route or flown over parts of the route. All that stuff was really important. key to success crossing the Alaska Range. Tons, I just had years and years of experience from working with the Forest Service, from backpacking on my own, from doing other long trips, and so it was kind of a culmination of everything I've done. And sure, I was definitely scared at certain points in time. Fear is good; it keeps you aware of what might hurt you. But you got to balance it with reason. If it's unreasoning fear, where you can't stop and weigh the options and weigh the factors involved, that's when fear gets dangerous. But on the whole, I always left myself an out. I'm always thinking, what's plan B, what's plan C, and I'm always willing to give up. Another way to put that is I try not to get myself into a deal that I'm not willing to walk away from. Because if you lock yourself into a certain path and then that path gets too dangerous, you're going to set yourself up for getting hurt or killed, because you always got to be willing to leave, turn around, divert, do something different if what you're doing isn't working out. So I always was willing to quit. I didn't choose to quit, but I always had that option, and I wasn't gonna get down on myself if I chose to quit, because you always got to leave yourself an out. How much hunting do we do, and how much food do we grow here? Do we garden? Do we have a greenhouse? We do a bit of hunting, not too much. We do a lot of gardening. We have a big high tunnel style hoop house. And gardening is something we both really enjoy. Farming really is what it is, because we got a lot of ground under production now, and we export food. Actually, we export potatoes and turnips and greens and zucchinis and cabbages and green beans and other stuff. We sell them to hunting guide, to villages, and to people back on the road system. So yeah, we buy food at the grocery store too. Things like flour, sugar, coffee, stuff like that, butter. But we also, send food back to town. So I like that. It's a two-way street. I wish we could grow corn, but you can't hardly grow corn in Alaska. There's some people who can, but not very commonly. Potatoes, though, on the other hand, they grow great. So those are our main staple crop. And as far as the seasons go, winter is long. It lasts about 7 months. You got about 1 month of spring and fall each. They go really quick. And about 3 solid months of summer. And the summer is really nice. We can actually get pretty hot. We can get a week where it's 90 degrees. Usually just 1 week. It's 90 degrees and then boom, back to 70 or 60. And so the summers tend to be cool, but they're really nice. And just long enough that you kind of forget about winter, because winter can get monotonous since it is so much of the year. So we got our dogs a few different ways. Hazelnut, our newest dog, we actually bought her from a breeder, just because we saw pictures of puppies, and online, and that was a puppy we just had to have, and we were looking for a third dog at that time. And then Rufus, we actually found him on the side of the road when he was just a tiny little puppy, in the middle of a snowstorm in late January. I literally drove over the top of him, and he was so small the truck frame didn't hit him. I didn't hit him with a tire, and he was, it was in like a blinding snowstorm at night. Someone must have dumped him off. It was on a really lonely stretch of highway, so I don't know how that happened, but he's kind of our miracle puppy. And then our other dog, Maggie, she's a rescue who was abandoned and needed a home, and I liked her. I thought she was a good dog, so we got her. The horses are Icelandic horses that came from a breeder, a ranch in British Columbia called Fitjamri Farms, and they're an amazing breed. They're really cold hardy. They're really well suited to Alaska. And they really like to work. They like people. Icelandic horses are about the most genetically unique breed in the world, because Iceland has had a law against importing horses for over 1,000 years. So that's like for 1,000 years, those horses have been bred on the island of Iceland without any new genetics coming in, and they are really old livestock that have a lot of really neat traits, and they're really fast. I mean, they're not as fast as your Kentucky Derby racehorse, but they are a really fast walking horse and trotting horse that has a very fast gallop too. And they're all around really neat animals, and just excellent ancient livestock. So we had 2 new baby horses this last spring. We're going to keep them, and then next year any colts we have we'll probably sell. So the horses ideally will end up selling baby horses as well. So so as far as food and hunting and edible plants, you know, we do all that stuff. We buy food in town. We go to Costco a couple times a year, you know. So that's just, you know, where we get a lot of our staple stuff. And then we grow lots of vegetables. We can a lot of things, and have a root cellar with potatoes and turnips and carrots and beets and that sort of things. Those kind of cool weather crops grow really well up here. There's a lot of wild edible greens and berries. So there's burnet, dock, rhodiola are some of the popular edible greens. And then there's berries. There's blueberries, of course, wild, and they're everywhere when they're ripe. There's high bush cranberries and low bush cranberries, and another tasty berry called a crowberry, and those are all collected. And they're just everywhere too. Like, you wouldn't believe there's like a carpet of ripe berries up here for just, you know, 6 weeks out of the year. There's berries everywhere. Let's see. And what do I miss about the busyness of society? You know, not a lot. I always liked small towns anyway better than big cities. And I think that I think things I miss the most would be like going out to get some wings with friends, or going to like a barbecue or something with people, and going to live music. Going to see live music is something I always really enjoy, especially if it's bluegrass music. And I don't know, I don't really like cars. I'm just sick of cars and being around them. I don't feel safe inside of them, so it's nice to be away from cars. I really like people. I love it when people come out here and we get to host visitors in the summertime, and you know, their minds are blown by being out somewhere like this. And I love hearing about people's lives and how their lives have turned out. And you know, everyone's different, and it's always interesting to see how things work and hear how people have dealt with their struggles. So yeah, I don't miss a lot about society, honestly. You know, we're still a part of society. You know, we still can vote, and we can we go to town. We have a post office box, that sort of thing. But I really do enjoy living out somewhere very remote with all this elbow room. And I just, you know, I mean, that's about it. I was able to learn a lot about doing this kind of thing just by reading books, and then you learn more by talking to people who've done stuff like this, and you know, can learn more by watching some YouTube videos, that sort of thing. But you know, you can always pick up a few nuggets of wisdom here and there and put them all together. And you don't need fancy gear to go out in the woods and go camping. You know, you don't need the latest things they're selling at Cabela's. You know, you really don't need all this stuff. People 100 years ago, 200 years ago didn't have it, and it just takes good habits and learning some skills. You know, some decent rubber boots, maybe a decent rain jacket, and don't wear too much cotton if you can help it, going out where it's wet. So I encourage you to keep reading and get outside when you can, and enjoy you know, the beautiful nature this country and continent has to offer. Brr, it's getting chilly out here. Let's check the temperature.
Ooh, burr. Okay. It's about negative 25, it looks like. I'm gonna get inside and get this video posted for y'all.